Good afternoon, Martin. Jefflén, candidate to presidency of EUROCADRES, to the Congress of EUROCADRES, which will take place on the 28th, 29th of November, this year. In a few weeks you will have the Congress and you are a candidate for presidency. What would you expect soon after your elections if you will be elected to the presidency of EUROCADRES? How do you imagine your presidency?
Soon after my election, I expect, first of all, lots of administrative stuff to deal with, all the bank things and papers and stuff that has to be changed, the transparency registry, etc. But I think after that, we have a pretty big challenge working with what we call Resolution B, which is the way forward, so to say, of how to work with EUROCADRES in the future. The policies we set in the Resolution A, and I would say that we are reassuring and reconfirming lots of our positions that we already have. So the majority of the change, which is going to take place at the Congress, if it's decided by the Congress, but at least it's proposed now by the Executive Committee, is to be even to become even stronger as an advocacy organization, to work more closely with the member organizations, etc. So I imagine I will be liaising, meeting lots of member organizations, and of course getting down to business with the politics, making sure that we have a strong voice in the social dialogue and that we are heard by the Commission.
So you are saying that there will be a sort of continuity. I mean, the resolutions you mentioned don't come out from blue. No. There is a sort of continuity with the past. So which are, in your view, the stocks of experience and commitments you're taking up from the last presidency, and which are the tasks more precisely that EUROCADRES should undertake as relevant for PNMS, for professional and managerial staff in Europe and the whole trade union movement?
Yeah. Well, first of all, as I said, lots of the political themes that we are working on will still be very crucial for us. For example, the issue of mobility. There are still a lot of obstacles in the single market when it comes to workers' movement, and we need to break down those obstacles. And I think that there has been a lot of focus on capital. It's a lot of focus on services now also, but when it comes to the free movement of persons, there's still a lot of work to be done.
So you're mentioning some topics that are of course relevant, as far as I can imagine, for the building of the European Union, but coming back to reality, in 2008 Europe was struck by the worst economic, financial and social crisis of the last decades, if not centuries. So, starting from your experience as a trade unionist, national and European trade unionist, do you think that the concept of Europe is now rather weaker, equal than before, or stronger? Are we building a stronger Europe after bearing in mind the 2008 crisis?
Okay, weaker, the same, or stronger? My answer would be no, because I think there is no single answer to that question. In one way, of course, the European Union and the European project has become weaker because, I mean, we are facing lots of challenges. There is also the risk of diminishing solidarity between the countries, what's going on in the Eurozone, for example. But there's also something in there which is a potential, and can show us the direction of the way forward. I think that the European project has a bright future, but it is for sure facing a challenge. And I think that the way forward is not less cooperation; it's more cooperation. It's finding the solutions together. So, in that sense, yeah, European project has taken quite a few turns, but
so you're saying taking risks and weaknesses Europe is facing in this moment as opportunities to go on and step forward.
yeah,
But we cannot forget that Europe is within a context, a globalized context, and you as a national European trade unionist have been in the front line in the building of a European labour market, a European social model. But coming back to reality as before, the focal point of a globalizing economy is pretty much shifting outside from Europe. I'm thinking about China or Brazil, South Africa, India. So what is your concern about it, personal concern, and what do you think are the main steps in the trade union movement should take to face this crisis, this decentralization?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think that first of all, yes, it is a globalized economy. We are living in a Europe where the borders are slowly being dismantled, and much for the good, of course. And we are also living in a world where we are fighting poverty on a global level, and things are happening. I mean, we can see an Asia and Africa in development. The world is not as it was 20 years ago, or even a decade ago. There is, of course, a very swift change going on there. I think it comes down to one of the issues that we are talking about with collective agreements, for example, fair competition. If we can guarantee and safeguard levels of decency in terms of remunerations and salaries, in terms of working hours, etc., then it's also easier to so to say level out the play field. And I think this has to be going on a global level as well. And in that sense, Europe has a really important role to play. I don't believe we can talk about a European social model. We have many different European social models, but there is still something in the essence of social Europe that is important to fight for and to continue to develop. And I think that the trade union movement has an important role there, especially in terms of economic turmoil and crisis, because it's often the welfare institutions are attacked and being dismantled, and for us to have a well-functioning labor market, we need to have some standards when it comes, for example, to what happens if you don't have a job any longer, or if you need to change your career because the development is going in that direction that your old field of expertise is no longer valid in the labor market.
And do you think that in this fragmented context, EUROCADRES should play a role in fostering the managerial social responsibility as a form of collating these pieces together and identifying the particularity of Europe and social Europe?
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, corporate social responsibility has been and will still continue to be debated and of course worked with, and I think it's an important issue to be working with as well. What we can see from many of our member organizations is that they are also working on the code of ethics of their own profession. For example, the engineers, I mean, they want to innovate good stuff that makes the world a better place to be, etc. And I think this thinking in terms of code of conduct or what the managers can do to promote the company making the world a better place to be. That's an interesting concept. So a professional ethics, a managerial ethics, and as of now we call it managerial social responsibility. And I think that this issue or this concept will be interesting to work with for the coming years, actually.
It seems that you will have a lot of work in the forthcoming years, so I wish you good luck for the Congress and for your can we say probable elections as candidate?
We'll see. So far, as of now, I'm the only candidate, but I'm still touchy-wood.
Yeah, of course, we all are.